So in continuation of the previous video, again, the collection of 12% expanded value-added tax. So ang value-added tax, hindi siya ang consumption tax nga gina-impose on most goods and services. So the expanded VAT means it applies to a broader range of goods and services. So more effective collection means the government aims to improve its efficiency and in ensuring that businesses and consumers pay the required VAT. So by improving the tax collection, the government increases its revenue without necessarily raising the tax rate. So this can be achieved by implementing measures like stringent enforcement, better auditing, and simplifying the tax payment. Next is economizing of government funds. So this is a broad strategy encompassing various measures to reduce waste, improve efficiency, and cut unnecessary spending across all governments. So by being frugal and efficient in its operation, so the government can significantly lower its overall expenditures. Example of this are yung pag-reduce sa mga travel expenses, streamlining the administrative processes, cutting down on non-essential procurement, and using technology to improve efficiency. Next is energy efficiency and conservation. So this goes beyond just the government's own consumption. So dere, ang conserve ng energy is not only the government. So it aims to promote energy efficiency and conservation across the entire economy, such as yung mga businesses, the households are also included here, no? Or also involved here. So while it might not directly and immediately increase the government spending or increase the government revenue or decrease the spending, it can lead to long-term benefits like reduced reliance on imported energy, which it helps to save foreign currency, lower ang energy costs for businesses and consumers, potentially boosting economic activity and environmental benefits. So the government might implement policies, incentives, or awareness campaign to achieve this. So in monetary policy naman, the table lists two potential strategies under this policy without explicitly linking them to specific current situations. So this is because yung monetary policy decisions are often driven by broader economic goals like controlling the inflation, promoting full employment, and maintaining stable financial markets. So the listed strategies are the tools that the central bank can use. The sale of treasury bills. So the treasury bills are the short-term debt instruments issued by the government. So when the central bank sells this, it reduces the amount of money circulating in the economy as people use their money to buy the bills. So with less money available, borrowing costs might slightly increase and overall spending can be moderated. So this is used often to control inflation. So when there is too much money chasing too few goods. Next is the sale of government-owned and controlled corporations or GOCC. So this involves when the government sells its ownership or shares in companies or industry in companies that it owns or controls. So when the government sells its GOCCs, it receives a large sum of money or revenue for the government. So the influx of cash can have several effects. So it can directly help reduce the budget deficit. The money that the government receive will eventually flow back into the economy through government spending or other channels, potentially increasing the money supply. The expectation that the private ownership might lead to more efficient management and operation of the formerly government-owned entities. So, in policy Okay, and policy exchange rate naman, when a country has a controlled exchange rate, it means that the government, or usually through its central bank, actively intervenes in the foreign exchange market to maintain the value of its currency at a specific level or within a narrow bands relative to another currency. So the government sets a target price for its currency and uses a various tool to make sure that the actual market price stays close to the target. So kung ga-float freely naman siya, it means that the value of the peso is determined by the forces of supply and demand in the foreign exchange market. So with a minimal intervention of the central bank. So to increase the government's capacity to meet its financial obligations, when the peso is allowed to float freely, the strategy is aimed at payment of debts. So this strategy is about ensuring that the Philippines can meet its financial obligations to the other countries um, and in the international organizations, and it's like thinking that the government, like, let's think of this, the government has taken out loans in a foreign currency, so like the US dollars. So when those loans comes due, the government needs to have an enough to have and enough for foreign currency to pay them back. So if the Philippines doesn't have enough foreign currency reserves, it might have to buy them on the open market. So which could drive up the price of those currencies since they are essentially increasing the demands in a currency and make the peso weaker because they are buying the foreign currency using the country's own currency, which means they are putting more of their own currency in the forex market, hence increasing its supply. So a weaker peso makes the import more expensive and it can lead to inflation. So maintaining a sufficient foreign currency reserves is crucial for economic stability. Next is encourage overseas contract workers to send income to the Philippines. So Filipino working abroad or those OFWs send a significant portion of their earnings back to their family in the Philippines, which are the remittances. So these remittances are usually in foreign currencies. So when these foreign currencies enter the Philippines, they increase the supply of foreign currency in the country. So this increased supply can help strengthen the Philippine peso or at least prevent it from weakening too much, making it easier for the government and businesses to pay for imports and services for service foreign debts. In income policy naman, the government employed several strategies related to income. So first is yung rent control. So by setting limits on how the landlords can charge for rent, especially in urban areas, the government aims to make housing more affordable for people, particularly with those with lower incomes. So the specific rent ceilings and limitations on annual increases are designed to protect the tenants from excessive rent hikes. Next is yung wage adjustments and setting minimum wages. So the government periodically reviews and adjusts the minimum wage levels that employers are legally required to pay their workers. So this aims to ensure that even yung mga lowest paid workers receive a basic income to meet their needs. So wage adjustments can also be influenced by negotiations between the labor unions and employers. Next is implementation of socialized housing programs. So this involves government initiatives to provide affordable housing options for low income earners or for low income families. And this includes building low cost housing units, providing the subsidies or financial assistance for housing purchases or upgrading informal settlements. And lastly is the job creation and wage growth. So this is a broader goal that a government tries to achieve through various economic policies and programs. So creating more jobs reduces unemployment and it provides more people with the it provides more people with income, fostering an environment where businesses can grow and become more productive, which leads to which can lead to increased demand for labor and consequently higher wages over time. So this can involve policies that supports investment, the education, skill development, and a stable economic environments.
Hi everyone. So Christine already discussed the macro policies. So now I'm going to explain what micro policies are, how they work, and why they are important to a country's economy. So micro policies are specific actions taken by the government to improve or manage particular parts of the economy. They do not affect the whole economy, only certain sectors, businesses, or groups of people. So para mas maintindihan nyo kung ano ang micro policies, so think of it like this. If the government is the doctor and the economy is the patient, micro policies are like treating a specific part of the body, like giving medicine just for a sore throat instead of the whole body. So let's take a real example. So the Philippine government has a program to support local rice farmers. So they give financial aid, irrigation support, and buy rice at a fair price. So this is micro policy because it focuses on just one group, which is the farmers, helping them compete with cheaper imported rice. So micro policies includes trade policy, foreign direct investment, policy on privatization or nationalization, economic policy, competition policy, and subsidy policy. So first, let's discuss the trade policy. So a trade policy is a set of rules that a country follows when buying and selling goods with other countries. So to make trade easier, many countries like Philippines join agreements like NAFTA, AFTA, and WTO. So these agreements help reduce tariffs, which are taxes on imports, quotas or limits on the number of goods that can be imported, and other restrictions. So in the past, some countries had very high tariffs, sometimes 100 to 200%. But with these agreements, countries agreed to lower tariffs maybe to 10% or 5% and eventually to 0%. So goods can move more freely across borders. So this is good news for consumers as they get access to cheaper products from other countries. But for the developing countries like the Philippines, it can be tough. So our local businesses may not be able to compete with cheap imported goods. So this can lead to factories closing down, people losing jobs, and less local production. So there are also limits called quotas on how much local businesses can sell abroad. So this makes it harder for them to grow and expand globally. That's why countries need to create fair and balanced trade policies, ones that help us join the global market but also protect local industries. So we need to support Filipino businesses so they can compete, create jobs, and grow our economy. So in short, trade policies help open the doors to global trade. But we need to make sure that while we trade with the world, we don't forget to take care of our own economy and people. So next, we have foreign direct investment. So foreign direct investment or FDI means that a business or individual from one country puts money into a business or project in another country. So instead of just sending products or services, they invest directly by buying land, building factories, or becoming part owners of local companies. So this type of investment is long-term and shows a strong commitment from the foreign investors to do business in that country. So when a foreign investor builds a factory or starts a business in a new country, they need workers, suppliers, and services. So this leads to job creation. So from construction to office work to factory jobs. So as these businesses operate, more economic activity happens. Local businesses sell materials, people spend their salaries, and the economy grows. So to compete with other countries and encourage foreign businesses to invest, governments often provide incentives such as tax breaks or lower taxes for a few years, grants or loans, and faster business registration processes. So these are meant to make the country more attractive and business friendly for foreign investors. So FDIs can be used in many areas, including infrastructure projects like roads, airports, and energy system, which benefit the public, expanding businesses such as building new factories or opening more stores, and national projects like power plants, technology parks, and industrial zones, which help improve a country's economy and development. So government don't just wait for investors to come. They actively promote their country by sending trade mission or official visit to other countries to meet business leaders, organizing trade exhibits to showcase local products and investment opportunities, and holding negotiations to discuss investments, deals, terms, and incentives. So these efforts build relationships and convince foreign businesses to invest. So next, we have privatization and nationalization. So privatization means that a government-owned company or asset like a power plant, water supply services, or transportation system is sold to private business or individual. So the government gives up control and the private sector takes over operations, ownership, and management. So sometimes government-run companies are not efficient, meaning they spend too much money, are slow, or do not serve the public well. So they also experience corruption, bureaucracy, or heavy financial losses. So when that happens, the government might decide to sell the company to a private investor hoping it will be managed better. So private companies are usually run with the goal of making profit. So they are often more focused on reducing waste, cutting costs, improving services, and using resources wisely. So privatization is expected to lead to better service, innovation, and faster decision making since the private sector operates with fewer restrictions. So next, we have the nationalization. So nationalization means the government takes ownership and control of a company or industry that was previously privately owned. So this can be temporary or permanent. And it usually happens in industries that are important to the country or the public. So the main goal of nationalization is to protect the public. So sometimes private companies may charge very high prices, limit supply, or fail to meet people's needs. So in such cases, the government steps in to make sure services or products are affordable, available, and reliable for everyone. So nationalization usually happens in essential services like things people cannot live without, like electricity, water supply, healthcare, and transportation. So if private companies fail to deliver or prioritize profit over public welfare, the government may take over to improve service and ensure access for all citizens. So in summary, privatization happens when the government transfers ownership of a company or service to a private business or individual. So in simple terms, something that was publicly owned becomes privately owned. So on the other hand, in nationalization, So nationalization is when the government takes over a private company or industry and turns it into a public property. So this means the business is no longer owned by a private company but by the government for the benefit of the people. So next we have the economic policies. So economic policies are plans and actions made by the government to help the country grow, develop, and take care of its people. So these policies guide how money is used in areas like trade, employment, public services, and prices. So the main goal is to improve the lives of citizens and create a stable and growing economy. So a subsidy is when the government helps pay part of the cost of a product or service. So this makes it cheaper for the public. So for example, without subsidies, prices for food or electricity might be too high for some families. So by covering some of the cost, the government makes sure people can afford basic necessities. So economic policies also focus on making sure everyone, especially the poor and vulnerable, has access to important services like healthcare, education, and basic goods. So this is important for reducing poverty and giving every citizen a chance to have a better life. So to give specific help where it's needed, governments may support farmers so food can be grown and sold at lower prices, clean water projects so everyone can access safe water, and fuel subsidies to keep transportation and cooking costs low. So these are all part of the government's role in making sure that economy works for all people, not just the rich. So to summarize, economic policies are government efforts to keep the economy strong and fair, especially for those in need. So through things like subsidies and social support, they make sure that everyone gets access to essential goods and services. So next, we have the competition policy. So competition policy is all about improving a country's human resources and natural resources. So when a country focuses on developing both of these, it can be more competitive on the global stage. So human resources are especially important as skilled, educated people are key to a country's progress. So the greatest asset a country can have is its people. Skilled, educated, and productive citizens are what drive economic growth and development. So in other words, a country's productivity is tied to how well-trained and motivated its people are. So this is why the development of human resources is central to competition policy. So to help its citizens compete globally, the government must ensure that education is of the highest quality. So when people are well educated, they have the skills to take on global challenges, adapt to new technologies, and participate in a rapidly changing economy. So education isn't just about reading and writing. It's about providing the skills needed for success in a global market. So to compete globally, citizens need to be well-rounded. This means developing knowledge workers or people who are skilled in fields like global languages, information technology, leadership, seafaring and tourism, and positive personal values. So by focusing on these areas, the government helps create well-prepared workers who can contribute to the country's economic growth. So the ultimate goal of competition policy is to create a workforce that is hardworking, intelligent, and nationalistic. So a workforce like this gives the country a strong competitive advantage, meaning it can perform better in global trade, attract investments, and create more opportunities for growth. So, competition policy is about improving human and natural resources to create a competitive, skilled, and motivated workforce. So by focusing on education, skills, and values, the government gives the country an edge in global markets. So lastly, we have the subsidy policy. So a subsidy policy is a way for the government to assist its citizens by reducing the cost of essential goods. So these are things people need every day like food, water, fuel, or healthcare. So the government helps make these items more affordable so everyone has access to basic necessities. So a subsidy is when the government pays a part of the price of a product or service. So this reduces the amount that consumers have to pay. So for example, the government might provide a subsidy on rice. So people pay less at the store even though the actual cost of producing rice is higher. So subsidies are especially important for low-income families who might otherwise struggle to afford essential goods. So by subsidizing things like foods or fuel, the government makes sure that even families with less money can meet their basic needs. So this support helps reduce poverty and ensure that everyone has a fair chance at a decent standard of living. So not every country can afford subsidies all the time. So to offer subsidies, a country needs to have enough funds or surpluses, money or resources that it can use to support the policy. So if the country has extra revenue, often from taxes or natural resources, it can afford to give this financial assistance to its people. So guys, may question ko dire. So Jason, please answer this. So what is subsidy policy? Should a nation pursue a subsidy policy? Explain the advantage and disadvantage of pursuing the subsidy policy. So you can comment lang sa comment section. Cheese, thank you. So now, I'll be discussing table 11.2, which is all about the Philippines micro policies. So, micro policies are small-scale government strategies that focus on specific sectors of the economy like trade, investment, government affairs, and public services. So, let me explain each part of the table one by one. So, first, trade policy. So currently, the Philippines maintains friendly relationship with the global community, but we are also working on strengthening those ties. So the strategies include deepening our trade relationship with ASEAN countries and China, building stronger ties with the Middle East countries, Middle East and the United States, becoming more active in global organizations like the United Nations and APEC. So the goal here is to expand our global presence and boost international trade. So next is the Foreign Direct Investment Policy or the FDI. So at present, there are some restrictions on foreign investment, but the government plans to promote FDI through sending trade mission to Asia, Europe, and America, setting up exhibits abroad to showcase our local products, giving tax incentives to encourage foreign investors to invest in the Philippines. So this means we're opening up more opportunities for foreign businesses to come in and help grow our economy. So for government firms, currently, many firms are nationalized, meaning the government owns them. But there is move toward privatization. That means selling government-controlled corporation to private sectors, ensuring fair and honest public bidding. So this is done to make government services more efficient and reduce public spending. So now let's talk about the economic policy. So the strategies here focus on development and sustainability. So some of the key points include developing lands for agribusiness, creating strong economies in different regions, investing in alternative sources of energy, employ promoting overseas employment by looking for new markets, using RoRo, ports, and boats for better transportation and trade, and encouraging more people to become entrepreneurs. So, in short, it's about building a balanced and self-sustaining economy. So next, we have the competition policy. So this focuses on fairness and opportunities. So the government aims to build more classrooms and give scholarships to poor families and prioritize the rights and welfares of workers. So this ensures that everyone has a fair chance to grow, especially those who are less fortunate. And lastly is the subsidy policy. So currently, the government continues to subsidize or help lower the prices of essential goods like rice. So this is important to support low-income families and make food more affordable. So in conclusion, this table shows that the Philippine government is aiming for a more open, competitive, and people-friendly economy by improving trade, attracting investments, encouraging private sector participation, and helping the poor and workers. So guys, we have a short activity here titled Name.policy. So direction, analyze each situation and name the specific government policy being used. If you are selected to respond, please post your answer in the comment section along with a brief explanation of your reasoning. So, pili lang kamo di guys ang inyong answer sa dalong. So, first scenario. The central bank announces to decrease in the key interest rate, making it cheaper for banks to borrow money. So, this is intended to encourage more lending and investment in the economy. So, please answer this, Kathy. Thank you. So, scenario 2. The value of the Philippine peso has remained relatively stable against the US dollar over the past year. Despite some fluctuation in the global market, the central bank actively intervenes in the foreign exchange market to maintain this stability. So, Ms. Gonzalez, ikaw sino answer? So, scenario 3. Due to increased government spending on infrastructure projects like new highways and bridges, the national budget shows a larger deficit this year. So, Ms. Borja, please answer this. Next scenario. The government implements a nationwide program that sets limit on how much wages and prices can increase in a given year to prevent rapid inflation. So this i-answer ni Ms. Di Hosto. Scenario 5, a large Japanese automotive company decides to build a new manufacturing plant in the Philippines, bringing in significant capital, creating jobs for local workers, and boosting economic activity in the region. So the Philippine government offered tax breaks to attract this investment. So Ms. Escalada, please answer this. So next, the government passes a law that establishes a commission responsible for investigating and penalizing companies that engage in anti-competitive practices, such as price fixing or forming monopolies. So, Ms. Firma, please answer this. Thank you. So, scenario 7. The Philippines signs a new agreement with neighboring ASEAN countries that will gradually reduce tariffs on agricultural products traded between them over the next 5 years. So this is for Ms. Bandelion. So last, the government decides to sell its majority stake in the National Telecommunications Company to a private corporation, hoping that this move will lead to better service quality and increased efficiency. So, Ms. Alier, please answer this. Thank you. So moving forward, resources are the foundation for a country's economic success. So they determine whether a country can be competitive in the global economy or if it will struggle to grow. So countries with rich resources, whether natural, human, or technological, are more likely to be successful. So in contrast, a lack of resources can hinder a nation's progress and development. So resources can be broken down into four key types, all of which contribute to a nation's success. So first, we have the natural resources. So natural resources are the raw materials provided by the earth like arable land, minerals, energy fuels, aquatic life, and forest lands. So these resources are critical for a country's economy, but they must be used wisely. So sustainable management for natural resources ensures that they benefit the population rather than being depleted or misused. Next, we have the human resources. So human resources refer to the people who live in a country. So a country's education levels, skill sets, and overall health of its population are vital to its economic success. So a well-educated and skilled population can drive innovation, productivity, and overall economic growth. However, large populations can also present challenges such as the need for more resources to feed, educate, and care for everyone. So the key is balancing population growth with the development of skills and resources. Third, we have the technologies. So technology is one of the most important resources for national progress. So it includes research and development, science, communication, information technology, manufacturing, and medicine. So these technologies help a country become more efficient, productive, and innovative, giving it a competitive edge globally. So lastly, we have the capital. So capital refers to the financial resources, money, infrastructures, and investment that a country uses to build its economy. So when capital is invested wisely, it can create new businesses, job opportunities, and improve living standards. So it also allows the country to trade goods and services efficiently, which help build a more prosperous economy. So in summary, a country's resources, whether natural, human, technological, or capital, are the key to its economic success. So by wisely managing these resources, a nation can build a strong, competitive economy that benefits everyone.